I just broke my favorite mug. I spilled tea all over the book I just finished, so that's cool. Anyways, hi. If you haven't been here before, my name is Clara and I make bookish videos on the internet.com. I haven't been here for a while. You may or may not have noticed. I have gotten a few sweet messages checking in on me to make sure I'm okay, which is very, very kind, and I hope you know I appreciate them dearly. You might have noticed a background change, and that is because I moved with my fiance to a new place, and it is really lovely here. It is so much safer than the city we were living in before, so I am really grateful to be in this area. I'm not gonna keep rambling because I feel like I'm already rambling, but I thought what better way to make a comeback than to share my recent reads. And I wasn't sure how far back I wanted to go for my recent reads because, like I said, it's been a while. I actually don't think I've posted since last year, 2023, so this has been a long time coming, and I didn't, like I said, I didn't want to go too far into it, so I think what I want to do today is just talk about my June and July reads. Obviously, I have read stuff prior to that this year, stuff that I've loved, stuff that I haven't loved quite as much, but it is quite a few books just these past 2 months, so I didn't want to make this video be crazy, ridiculous long. So yeah, I have how many books? I read 12 books in June and I read 9 books in July, so math. My average is usually around 8 or 9 books, so the fact that I read 12 in June was kind of a little bit crazy for me, I guess, and yeah, I wanted to share those with you. So I'm gonna do that now. I did stack this pile as I went, so the top one is one of my most recent reads, so I'm gonna start with that. We're gonna start with the most recent and we'll head back in time to June, and yeah, I'll let you know my thoughts and stuff. So my most recent read at the end of July was May Sarton's Journal of a Solitude, and this is actually like a diary. Like, she keeps these journals, I guess, with the intent of publishing them, is what I've gathered, and this is my first May Sarton read. I actually did thrift another one of her books a while back called, I think it's As We Are Now, which I also think might be a diary, but it also could just be a regular novel. Oh, look, not to start the video off in like a very intimate way, but I don't make friends very easily or keep them easily, so I wanted to read about someone's experience with solitude and being alone with themselves and just kind of embracing the fact that they're alone and being happy with it. So I picked this up in the hopes that that's what this would be, and while there was absolutely beautiful prose in here and beautiful sentences and some really lovely quotes, which you can see I tabbed quite a few pages, it was a little bit disappointing, I'll say. It wasn't, and of course everybody's experience is going to be very different when it comes to being alone and solitude and all that, and I have nothing wrong with that, but I think my issue was that this book doesn't really document solitude at all. The majority of this book is her spending time with people and hanging out with friends and going to see friends and having friends over, and her life is just seemingly a constant stream of people who love her or care about her coming to see her and spending time with her, and I didn't see the solitude. Like, I read this and I feel like the beginning of it started off really nice, and then it just progressively, there was just more and more people, and I was like, this is the solitude in the room with us? It does not feel so. Obviously I wasn't expecting my whole experience to be in these pages, but at the same time it just, like, It's called Journal of a Solitude. Maybe there's another book out there, I'm sure, that I will find some solace in and comfort in, and this just wasn't it. You're gonna be okay. It's fine. No. He's freaking out because the FedEx man drove into our parking lot. Hey, can you lay down, please, honey? What was I saying? This book reminded me in a way of This Is How You Lose the Time War, which, if you don't know, is my favorite book of all time. I even have I have the birds from the cover tattooed on me. That's how much I love it. I just, that book is the most beautiful thing I have ever read. Obviously I don't think much can live up to okay, what am I saying? Oh my god. And in the sense that this book was beautiful and poetic and lyrical, and that is It Lasts Forever and Then It's Over by Anne DeMarkin. This is a book that takes, and I never thought I'd be saying this about a zombie book. This follows our main character, who is a zombie, and she is unnamed because she doesn't remember her name. She has memories of her life prior to becoming a zombie, but not much else. She doesn't remember the name of her partner. She doesn't remember her own name, and it is beautiful, it is strange, it is funny at times, and it just, oh my gosh, it was so, I keep saying it was beautiful, but like, I wanted to read you the first sentence or so, and I don't think it's gonna convince you of its beautifulness, but maybe the funniness. I lost my left arm today. It came off clean at the shoulder. Janice too picked it up and brought it back to the hotel. I would have thought it would affect my balance more than it has. It's like getting a haircut, the air moving differently around the remaining parts of me. Also by turns a sense of newness and lessness. Free me, undead me, don't look at me. Isn't it strange that I never knew a single living Janice and now I know 3? Stay in bed all day. If I lie on my right side, I can keep the arm balanced as if it is still a part of me. Or I can pretend it is your arm and that you are in bed with me. I think about how we used to take a blanket into the dunes and wrap up together, wake with sand in our hair and in the corners of our eyes. Sound of the ocean big as the sky. I miss sleep. I miss you. And that's the first page of this book. Don't want to give too much away because all I knew about this going in was the fact that she was a zombie and she doesn't remember her name, and it's just kind of her journey from that point onward. It's a very short book. It doesn't take long to read at all. I read it in one sitting. It is just so pretty. It's so pretty. This is, oh my gosh, if you read anything from this pile, probably, I might redact this later, but if you read anything from what I'm going to talk about today, let it be this book. It is so beautiful. Okay. I'm a little out of practice as far as talking about books goes. Please forgive me, I am trying so hard. I even took some notes and that doesn't seem to be assisting me much. But anyways, the next thing I read in July was the sequel to a series I started last year. And it's a series that I'm kind of reading very slowly because there are 3 books in this trilogy. There are 3 books in this trilogy, but there are like 16 books overall in this world and following these characters. And so I know it's going to be very slow going for me, but it is already, I'm like a fourth of the way into the last book of the trilogy as we speak, and it is already probably my favorite series I've ever read. It is amazing. It is so good, and I'm not going to be able to tell you much about the book that I'm about to show you, but I will say if you're a fan of fantasy, even if you're not, and you really enjoy almost character studies and in-depth characters and a very rich world that it feels as though you're there while you're reading it. If you like that kind of thing, pick up this series, because I can't foresee anybody not liking it. Anyways, the book I read in July was Royal Assassin. This is the second book of the Farseer trilogy by Robin Hobb. Oh my god. Robin Hobb's writing is just masterful. It is beautiful. It is so captivating and hypnotizing, and I swear to God, I open these pages and I am no longer in this world. I am in this world. I am with Fitz. I am in this kingdom, and it is so remarkable. I have never been so entranced or felt so inside of a story as I have when I've been reading these books. And I just absolutely, I love Robin Hobb's writing. It is incredible. The first book in this trilogy, if you don't know, is called Assassin's Apprentice, and it follows our main character Fitz. He is the bastard son of the prince of this kingdom, and he's taken in by the king and given duties and is trained to be the king's assassin. And it is so much more than that, though. Like, there's just so much. There's so much that happens. Like, I feel like I'm living a lifetime alongside these characters. I feel like I know them. I feel like they're family. I feel like they're friends. It is incredible how Robin Hobb writes. Obviously, like I said, I can't tell you anything about this book because it is the sequel. I don't want to spoil you. But just know that if you haven't read these books, you're missing out, okay? And that's enough of that. Next book I read in July. Wait, what? Where did it go? Oh no. Okay, I don't know where it went. It was in this pile. I think a friend of mine read it. Oh, that's what happened. The book prior to that book that I read in July was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. And this might be a surprise to you if you have followed me and my channel since the beginning of time, which was what, 2015, 2014? I've been on the internet for a while. Anyways, you may have heard me ranting about a certain book by Andy Weir called The Martian. I hated that book. I got a ways into it and I DNF'd it, and I just never, I like swore myself off of sci-fi at that point. Really, honestly, truly never thought I would revisit sci-fi as a genre I read, because I was just like, this is not for me. But recently well, okay, kind of a spoiler for the month of June, but I did read Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which is a sci-fi that takes place in space, and I adored that. I will get into that later. Reading Project Hail Mary, I actually loved it. I don't know if it was necessarily a 5-star for me personally. However, I really enjoyed it. I don't want to spoil anything, but there's a character in there that I loved. I actually really enjoyed our main character as well. I thought he was a silly, goofy guy. And loved the fact that he's just kind of a dork. I also buddy read it with my fiance. It was a really fun read, and we even got to, on our way to go camping, listen to the last couple chapters on audiobook together, which was a really fun experience. It was fun to finish it and experience the ending at the same time. Then I have a graphic novel, which I haven't really been reading a lot of graphic novels lately. I feel like usually I try and slip 1 or 2 in there a month, but that hasn't been the case really this year. But I watched a show and fell in love with a show, and therefore now need to consume every bit of media that pertains to this show in question. So I read the first Avatar: The Last Airbender graphic novel. This is The Promise, and this takes place directly after the show ends. I don't want to give spoilers in case you haven't seen the show, in case you haven't read these. This literally picks up on the scene that the show ends on, like frame, like it's perfect. And this was really great. We got more of Zuko's story and Aang's and Katara's, and it was just a lot of fun, and I'm really looking forward to reading the rest of these. I think it was really well done. Yeah, and it was like being back in the world, and that's all I could hope for. Moving on, the next book I read is my second book by this author. I read her other novel last year and fell in love with it. Her writing is beautiful. It's incredible. It's strange, but it's really hypnotizing in a way. Like you just, like, I didn't want to stop reading her words. And she's become an auto-buy author for me. So I was really excited to get around to her other book, which is actually a book of short stories, and that is Salt Slow by Julia Armfield. Julia Armfield wrote Our Wives Under the Sea, and it is a sapphic horror. I won't go too much into that because that's not what this video is about. But this book was a bunch of short horror-esque short stories. There was one about a girl band, and it was almost like cult-like, demonic. There was a lot of different stories in here, and honestly they were all fantastic. I will say that there probably were some that I enjoyed a bit more than the others. I'm gonna just read you the first page of the sleep story. When I was 27, my sleep stepped out of me like a passenger from a train carriage, looked around my room for several seconds, then sat down in the chair beside my bed. This was before they became so usual, the shadow forms of sleep in halls and kitchens, before the mass displacement left so many people wakeful at uncertain hours of the night. In those days, it was still surprising to sit up and see the silver lean of sleep, its casual posture. People rang one another, apologizing for the lateness of the hour, asking friends if they too were playing host to uninvited guests. She just has a way with words, and it's incredible. Next book I have is The Last Sane Woman by Hannah Riegel. This I heard about from Cass, who I will put down below in the description. I've really been enjoying her videos, just binge watching them, honestly. And she has a lot of good recommendations of books that I have never heard of, and I have been really enjoying seeking those books out and reading them, and I feel as though we have somewhat similar tastes because I've been really liking them. This follows a young woman named Nicola who finds an archive of letters from, I believe, the 70s between two women. One is a ceramics artist and the other is her friend who has more of like a marriage and children and family kind of vibe, and she reads these letters and soon discovers that something has happened between them, and so she wants to read all the letters, and she kind of puts her entire life on hold because she becomes so obsessed with reading these. I really liked this book. It was, I don't know if it was necessarily really plot driven. It was more character driven, and you kind of just slowly find out about these people that, you know, all have different lives, and I love books like that. I think they're really interesting when we dive deep into different characters and kind of figure out their, like, how they interact with each other. I think that's really cool. Really liked Hannah Riegel's writing style too. I believe this is her debut novel, so I'm excited to see anything she puts out next. Next book I have is a beautiful cover, and this one had me on a bit of a roller coaster in the sense of, like, I liked it, then I didn't really like it, and then I liked it again, then I didn't really like it again. And I think overall the vibe was kind of disappointing. Like, the vibes were there. The vibes are fantastic. I felt in the world, but I think the overall plot and the execution of the plot could have been better. Maybe. I don't know. And that is The Seas by Samantha Hunt. This cover is insane. Even the spine has little fishies on it. This follows a really troubled girl who is kind of an outcast in her little rainy coastal town, and she believes she is a mermaid. Her father disappeared when she was younger by just like walking into the ocean and never returning, and so she believes she's a mermaid. And she has a really troubling relationship with a war veteran who is much older than her and knew her as a child, but they still have like a romantic thing going on. And there's a part at the end of this book where something happens, an inciting incident happens. Someone says something about it that I was just like, oh, interesting. But then it is like basically immediately taken back, and I was like, what was the point? Why couldn't we just kind of leave it open-ended in that sense? Like, I feel like if it had ended at that point, it would have been really cool. This overall was strange. It was uncomfortable. It was gloomy and atmospheric, but I just feel like it could have been executed better. Technically, the first thing that I read in July was another, well, okay. So I read, this is Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Rise of Kyoshi. This follows a previous Avatar before Aang. And I don't want to give anything away for this, but I will say it's been a hot minute since I've read YA. I feel like this was really well done. I think, unfortunately, the writing at some parts were a little bit clunky, maybe, but I think overall the story had relatively good pacing. I think this really could have been incredible if it was an adult novel and it was longer. I know I just said that the pacing was good, but like, I feel like some parts of it were rushed. I don't know. Overall, it was fun. It was a fun time. It was a good time. It was fun being in this world. It was fun learning about more bending and seeing different characters in a different timeline prior to the events of Avatar: The Last Airbender. I thought it was fun. There is a second book in this duology, The Shadow of Kyoshi, I think. And I do own it, so I do want to read it at some point. It might be a minute, but yeah. If you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, if you like Avatar: The Last Airbender, I think you will enjoy this novel. Now we are back in time into June, and this is the month I read 12 things in, so hooray me, good job. And the first thing, or technically the last thing that I read that month, was Call Me By Your Name by Andre Aciman. And this I had very conflicting, I'm gonna sneeze. I think I'm gonna sneeze, hold on. Oh my god. Some of the writing was beautiful, but overall the characters were just a little bit aggravating. And I have never seen the movie before. I haven't read this book before, so I only kind of knew what I was getting into. And I did talk to a friend who confirmed that a number of things that happened in this book don't happen in the movie, which I am just so glad for, because there were quite a few things towards the end-ish time of this. I know a lot of people love this book. I think for me, the hype kind of ruined it, because I've spent so long thinking this was gonna be a 5-star read, it was gonna be incredible, it was gonna be beautiful. Big bummer for me, truly. Did I even say what this was about? My bad. This follows Elio. He's in Italy, and his family takes on like house guests every summer. Oliver is their house guest for the summer, and Elio quickly falls madly, deeply in love with him, and it's just a summer-long pining. Some of the pining was really sweet, but then it got a little bit obsessive, and also the age gap made me uncomfortable. I think that was another thing. But as far as the atmosphere of it goes, the like summer in Italy, I really enjoyed that aspect of that book. I thought that was really lovely. That was probably my favorite thing about it. And I would love to find more books that have that summer in Italy vibe. The next book I read, I gave this 5 stars. It was beautiful, it was tragic, it was heart-wrenching and heartbreaking and just so beautifully written. It was my first book by this author and I adored it. I genuinely cannot wait to read more from him. This takes place in 1950s Paris and follows our main character David, and I did not like being in the head of David, let me tell you. Oh, I should show you the book. I read Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. He's engaged to an American woman, but she goes on a trip and he falls into an affair with a bartender named Giovanni. And from there things just kind of spiral and get kind of crazy. Yeah, I loved Giovanni. I loved his character. David really frustrated me, but I feel like that was the point, so I don't discredit his character, you know what I mean? Yeah, this was such a heart-wrenching read, and I feel like this is a book that I could absolutely do a reread of at some point. I don't think I'm quite ready for it yet, but I do feel like it's one of those books that has stuck with me since I read it. I know it's only been like a month or two. Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm like stumbling over my words, but I don't know what else to say about this. Just besides read it, please read it. I do own If Beale Street Could Talk. Is that the title? I really want to read that one. I think it'll be hard to top Giovanni's Room, but we'll see. Okay, next book I read was my first. I had a lot of firsts, I feel, in the last 2 months of reading an author for the first time, and these are all authors that I have really wanted to get around to and just hadn't up to now, I guess. And so I was really excited to read Outline by Rachel Cusk. This was my first Rachel Cusk and I loved this. I believe I put it in my Goodreads review where I said something like, this book is the definition of Sonder, which is loosely to have the distinct knowledge that everyone around you is living a life as vivid and intricate as your own. Yeah, this was no plot, all vibes. Woman goes and talks to all these people. This was a really nice, peaceful read. And it was just interesting getting the life stories of these different characters that, you know, she might never see again. And just, it really just makes you think about the people around you that you don't interact with and like what their stories actually are if you were to sit down and talk with them. And would you like these people? Would you not like these people? Would their stories resonate with you? It was just, it was an interesting character study almost. This is the first in a trilogy. So there's Outline, Transit, and Kudos. I do own Transit and I do want to get to it very soon. All vibes. I love that. I love that kind of thing. So it was a win for me. And then I read a not so win for me and I was really disappointed by this. I own another book by this author that I am excited to get to still, and hopefully it will hit a little bit better than this one did for me. This one had me frustrated, it had me bored a little bit, and I thought that was really unfortunate because it seemed like something I would really like. And that was Good Morning Midnight by Jean Reese. I do own Wide Sargasso Sea by her, which is a kind of a Jane Eyre spin-off. It takes place with a character from Jane Eyre that we don't really get to hear from, and I've heard nothing but wonderful things about that book, so I'm still very excited to get to it. But this this just didn't do it for me. This follows our main character Sasha Jensen, who has returned to Paris, the city of her happiest moments and her most desperate, in search of a fresh start. Though she tries to establish a new routine, she quickly finds herself adrift once again. The loves and losses of her past lie in wait for her in the cafes, dress shops, and bars of her old city. And this is just honestly very depressing, and featured some male characters that I really just did not care for. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about this. I do apologize. Some of these books I read over a month ago. I have a very I have memory issues. I really should start writing down notes for books if I intend to give you like past 2 months kind of thing, because my memory is just not great. And for a book like this, especially one that I didn't enjoy as much, I find it hard to retain what exactly happened because I just didn't care in the end. At the end of the day, I was just like, yeah, it wasn't for me, and so I kind of just wiped it out of my mind, I guess. And even books I liked that I've read, I do have a really hard time retaining memories of them, just more of like how I felt reading them, if that makes sense. I'm sorry. I feel like that makes me a not great booktuber, but I hope you'll bear with me. I'm sorry. Anyways, the book I read after that was honestly a surprise to me how much I love this. I don't know, something about it worked for me. Again, this is another no plot, all vibes book, and there's a lot of it that I couldn't tell you really what happens, but I can tell you I liked it. And that was Pure Color by Sheila Heti. And like I said, this was a surprise to me because I kind of went into this hoping I'd like it, but I kind of almost expected it to be like a 3 or 4 star, but this was a 5 star for me, and I'm really happy that I read it. And I'm happy that I read it when I did. I actually read this during like over the course of 2 days, and we had thunderstorms, and I think the vibe for that was just chef's kiss. This had really beautiful prose, and it dealt with grief, and it's kind of hard, I feel, to explain what this is about. I can read you the back though, how about that? Okay. Here we are, just living in the first draft of creation, which was made by some great artist who is now getting ready to tear it apart. In this first draft, a woman named Mira leaves home for school. Once there, she meets Annie, whose tremendous power opens Mira's chest like a portal to what she doesn't even know. When Mira is older, her beloved father dies, and she enters the strange and dizzying dimension that true loss opens up. Pure Color tells the story of a life from beginning to end. It is a galaxy of a novel, explosive, celestially bright, huge, and streaked with beauty. It is a contemporary Bible, an atlas of feeling, and a shape-shifting epic. Yeah. What they said. Yeah, I really just loved this a lot. There were definitely more than a few quotes in here that you can see I tabbed it. Just really enjoyable. I really liked it. I'm really surprised. Okay, I gotta change my memory card. Bear with me. Okay, so the next book, hello, I'm here. You gonna focus on me, little guy? So the next book I read was one that I had been wanting to get my hands on for a while, but I forced myself to wait until it was out in paperback because I hate reading hardbacks. I despise it. I really am a paperback princess. So I waited and it paid off because I actually really enjoyed this book. And again, I'm going to read you the back because I struggle. You get it. Okay. So I read Natural Beauty by Ling Ling Huang. Our narrator produces a sound from the piano no one else at the conservatory can. She employs a technique she learned from her parents, also talented musicians who fled China in the wake of the Cultural Revolution. But when an accident leaves her parents debilitated, she abandons her future for a job at a high-end beauty and wellness shop in New York City. The store, Holistic, is known for its remarkable products, and her new job affords her entry into a world of privilege and gives her a long-awaited sense of belonging. She becomes transfixed by Helen, the niece of Holistic's charismatic owner, and the two strike up a friendship that hazily veers into more. All the while, our narrator is plied with products that slim her thighs, smooth her skin, and lighten her hair. But beneath these creams and tinctures lies something sinister. It was strange. It was just like an impending sense of doom and dread the entire book. Something bad was brewing and you just didn't know what, and then the reveal was crazy. It kept me hooked. from start to end, and it felt like so much happened, even though it's not a terribly long book, but it felt like forever. Like, it just felt like it went on, and I think that added to the dread. This was strange and bizarre, and I feel like I hate to compare books or like pit authors against authors or anything, but I do feel like this was what Rouge by Mona Awad was not for me. Both pertain to like the world of beauty and obsessiveness with your appearance and stuff, and I just feel like this did it so much better. Like, I just enjoyed this a crap ton. I really did. Then, oh my gosh, I don't know where this book went either, but I did read Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. This is the first in a series, and I'm pretty sure each book in the series follows a different set of characters, which I'm not sure how I feel about yet because I've only read the first one, but I feel like I could enjoy that. It brought me the same joy that Doctor Who does, and I'm not telling you to compare it to Doctor Who at all, because it's nothing like Doctor Who, except you know, they're in like a spaceship, I guess. But that's about it. That's I don't know how to explain why the vibe was just like, it was fun and goofy, but it also had that found family element to it that I think Doctor Who also has. So maybe that's why my brain decided to put 2 and 2 together and kind of... But I loved this book. It was so much fun. I loved the characters. They were all so interesting, and I loved watching them interact. I loved the found family aspect. I loved the writing, of course, because it's Becky Chambers. If you don't know, I've read her Monk and Robot duology, Psalm for the Wild Bill, and A Prayer for the Crown Shy, and I adore those books. I adore her writing in them, and so I was really excited to try out this other series of hers, and it did not disappoint. I tell you what. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. And again, it's a sci-fi, so I didn't know what to expect going into it, but it's not terribly heavy on the sci as it is the fi, I guess? I don't know. There's not a lot of math, and I appreciated that. So and then I read Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. This is my first, again, Sayaka Murata book. I haven't read anything else by her. This was another case of like, I'd heard that this woman is kind of an outcast in the story, and she's kind of a loner, and I've been looking for books that do that trope good. For lack of a better term, because I want something I can latch onto and identify with wholeheartedly, and this was good. It wasn't what I was looking for in that sense, but I think in its own right it was really nice. I think it really excelled in its mundanity, and just having a character that goes against the norm and is honestly really okay with it, even though everyone around her is like, what's wrong with you? Like, why aren't you like this? Why don't you fit in this box? And I think it did get a little like bizarre, I think, at the end, maybe, if I'm remembering that correctly, but overall it was really good. It just follows this woman. She's an unusual person, someone who has never fit in, but when she takes a job at a Smile Mart, she finally finds peace and purpose in her daily tasks. But there's a huge pressure on her to pursue a career, to find a husband, and she feels forced to take desperate action in order to please the people around her instead of herself. Is there room in this normal world for someone as strange as Kiko? And yeah, I just really liked the fact, I liked her as a character. I thought she was cool. Then, oh my gosh, I don't know if you can hear the rain, but it is raining. I have 4 books left. I'm gonna try and go through them pretty quick because I feel like this video is already pretty long and I don't know what else to tell you. So then I read The Stranger by Albert, is it Camus or Camus? I've heard both. This is a classic book that I've heard about my almost entire life, and has something that has really intimidated me and kind of I've been putting off. But but I did find this at a thrift store, and so I picked it up and I read it, and I don't know what to think. This was really depressing, and I do really struggle reading books that involve cruelty to animals. So I will say, if you're going into this, there is an instance of cruelty to animals, and I know that's not even like the focus of the book, but even like the mention of it, I was like, no. I don't know why. It really just gets to me. Through the story of an ordinary man who unwittingly gets drawn into a senseless murder on a sun-drenched Algerian beach, Hamo explored what he termed the nakedness of man faced with the absurd. Yeah, so it's just this guy who gets involved in a murder and goes from there, and it's really bleak and really kind of depressing again. And I don't mind bleak and depressing books if they're done in a way that I enjoy, but I don't know. This book, I just don't know. I don't know how I felt. I really don't. I kind of put this one down, and I'm pretty sure I didn't even rate it on Goodreads for a hot minute because I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, I didn't enjoy reading it, but it was fine. Yeah, okay. And then I read another disappointment, unfortunately. And that was my second Clarice Lispector book that I've read, and that's An Apprenticeship or A Book of Pleasures. And I really just expected more out of this because I really enjoyed A Breath of Life by her. I think her writing is phenomenal, and I think she has a really strong voice as an author. And this just felt, this was frustrating to say the least. It's supposed to be like a romantic book, but I just... Okay, so in this romantic novel by the great Brazilian writer, Lori, a primary school teacher, is isolated and nervous, comfortable with children but unable to connect with adults. When she meets Ulysses, a professor of philosophy, an opportunity opens, a chance to escape the shipwreck of introspection and embrace the love, including the sexual love, of a man. Her attempt is not only to love and to be loved, but also to be worthy of life itself. Yeah. I don't know. Something just didn't work for me in this. I think the man himself was like he thought he was better than her, if I remember correctly. Like, he felt like he had a superiority complex to her, and it just really pissed me off. So I didn't enjoy this. I didn't find it romantic because it just felt like there was a power imbalance, and it was just kind of a toxic love, I guess. Yeah, I don't know. Disappointed with that one, but I will be reading more from her because I really like her. I like her style. I like her writing style, and I like, yeah, okay, you get it. Last two books. So, oh my god, they're covered in tea. Cool. Another first, two more firsts actually, of authors I've been meaning to read, and the first is The Black Unicorn, which are poems by Audre Lorde. I haven't read anything by Audre Lorde prior to this, so this was really fantastic. I really enjoyed these. I'm trying to find you like a little bit to read because her writing is gorgeous. Oh my god. In the rusty pages of Grey's Anatomy and Witchcraft and Chewing Gum on Sundays, I have sought you in the rings around oak trees, on each of the 12 moons of Jupiter, on Harlem streets, peeping up at secrets pregnant women carry like a swollen thread. Beneath the flowers of their gathered blouses and under the rust of a summer night, smelling of the kerosene and red pepper my mother used to frighten out bed bugs hidden between my toes. Or was it only dream beads of sweet I suffered? No. Or was it only dream beads of sweat I suffered before I could slip through nightmare into the patient world of sleep, vanishing like a swallowed flower, and for years afterward I would wake in August to the leftover scent of a child's tears on my pillow. Please ignore the fact that I stumbled over so many words in that. Beautiful writing. Amazing writing. Ow, my leg is asleep. Holy moly. Okay, last book. Oh my god, my leg is tingling. Okay, the last book was another first for me by this author, and I was so excited to read it, and I'm so glad I did. I really enjoyed it. And that was Sula by Toni Morrison. I've never read anything by Toni Morrison, though I do have quite a big number of her... All my books just fell over. Okay. Okay. I do have quite a number of Toni Morrison's books on my shelves. I have, what do I have? I have Beloved, I have The Bluest Eye, I have Song of Solomon, I have Sula. I might have one more by her, I'm not sure. But I do really want to get around to the others very soon. I'm really torn between wanting to read Beloved or The Bluest Eye first. So if you have read either and have any recommendations, let me know. I would love to know. I'm sure I'm gonna love them all, but still, I would love to hear your opinion. So this is about two girls who grow up to become women, two friends who become something worse than enemies. This tells the story of Nell Wright and Sula Peace, who meet as children in the small town of Medallion, Ohio. Their devotion is fierce enough to withstand bullies and the burden of a dreadful secret. Indoors, even after Nell has grown up to be a pillar of the black community and Sula has become a pariah. Their friendship ends in an unforgivable betrayal. That it does. Toni Morrison has such a way with words, with storytelling, with immersing you into the lives of these people. It's just spectacular. Like, I really enjoyed this. I love her writing style. I think she's phenomenal, and I get it. I get the hype now. I understand. She is just a force to be reckoned with, and I cannot say enough good things about this book. I loved it. There is a mess of books around me at the moment that I need to clean up, and this video is gonna be so long. I am so sorry. What a comeback. Am I right, ladies? Let me know what your most recent read was and if you enjoyed it, because I'd love to hear about it. Pippin's losing his dang mind. Look at this guy. I do want to get back to making more videos, so hopefully you will see something from me very soon. Thank you so much for watching, and everything is determined to break today. I hope wherever you are, you're having a wonderful day, and I will see you soon in another video. And remember to love always. I think that's what I used to say. Okay.